So a while back, the Shades of Morton minigame had a rework, and they adjusted a lot of the rewards and of course the area itself, which I gotta say looks a lot better than it did before. I did a video in that area quite a while back of killing the fire shades, but since then they've added a new tier which is higher than that, and it is the Urium shades. So we're going to be killing those, or I should say we're going to be cremating those. The original plan was to kill them, but I might save that for later. Since we can just buy the remains off the Grand Exchange, I'm going to go ahead and do that, since on the wiki it shows that you can make more by just cremating it. I think killing it was like 600 to 700k, and cremating it was, I believe, like 1.2 mil maybe? So yeah, as you can see, cremating the remains is 1.2 mil apparently, and we can do 320 an hour. So I think I'm going to just go ahead and buy the 320. Not really stress out about trying to fit in as many as I can, maybe later on, but for now I just want to test it out to see what the rewards are like. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. So for this method, you want to make sure that you have at least the Mauritania Legs 3, since we are using the Berg de Rat teleport to get to this area. Other than that, some full graceful will help out since we are doing a bit of running. Don't forget your tinderbox to light the remains, along with the pyre logs. Now the method is fairly simple. All you want to do is place down the pyre logs, then the remains, and then you light it. Once you light it, you can go ahead and pick up your reward. The reward is either going to be a gold key of varying colors or some GP. Now, part of the reason why I don't have a timer on screen like I usually do for the 1 hour methods is because I wasn't going to force myself to do as many as I could in 1 hour since this was new content to me. Also, I don't have the gold coffin yet, which I recommend having because it'll let you open up more of these chests in the long run. If you have the gold coffin, you can store up to 28 remains in there, which means you can bring 28 pyre logs instead of the usual 13 to 13 ratio. So if you're going to try this moneymaker, I highly recommend buying the gold locks first and obtaining the gold coffin. Now it is important to note that keys on the pedestal will disappear after 2 minutes and GP will disappear after 30 seconds, so keep that in mind. Now if you feel like putting a lot of effort into this, you can definitely cremate a lot more remains than what the wiki says through tick manipulation. Of course I wasn't doing that, I was doing this as a pretty chill method. And if you want to do that, basically you can put the pyre logs and the remains on there on the same tick if you are fast enough. The wiki also states that you can get an elite clue here every 35 minutes on average, which is fairly nice since I am on the hunt for elite clues. So after this video is done, I might actually stay here until I get those 200 elite clues done. Now luckily we do have the hard and elite Mauritania diaries done, which means we get 50% more prayer experience and 50% more fire making experience. I was actually pretty excited to try this moneymaker since in the past before I have checked the margins on moneymakers that require the use of pyre logs, and most of the time it was never really worth it. The wiki would show an amount and I would get a totally different amount whenever I would do a price check. So hopefully we are able to make some money throughout this video, and if not, at least we'll still get a lot of XP. And with that being said, here are the last of these shade remains being burned. Now as for the loot so far, here are all the keys that we've gotten, organized from most keys to least keys for your viewing pleasure. And the gold that we got, 248k from the drops that weren't keys. So now comes the fun part. Now we get to use these keys and get some rewards. Even without doing that, we've gotten 240,000 fire making XP and 57.8k prayer XP. So once again, this is a pretty nice way of getting XP, even if we don't get money back. But it does say 1.2 mil, so let's go test it out. So now that we have the keys, we can just head a bit more north from where we were burning the remains, and we'll find a pair of doors that we can go through over here. You do need a key to get in here, and since we have the gold key, we can get through all the doors that are down there. The NPC who also gives you the broken coffin is right outside the door, so make sure to claim that. As you can see, the area has been reworked and it looks much nicer than it did before. It resembles the Barrows theme pretty closely. You can even see it across the little area there, the wall. The Barrows is like right next door. And this is the area where we will be claiming our rewards. So I'll go ahead and speed through most of this, but basically you want to use the right colored key on the right colored chest. As you can see here, we have the crimson, so we'll be using it on the crimson chest. Now there is a chance for a zombie to spawn whenever you're opening up the chest. Fairly low level, feel free to fight him back. I just kind of ignored him. I did turn on protect from melee later on whenever I would trigger a bunch, because I'm not sure if there's actually a limit. Sometimes there are like 4 zombies that are walking around and they're all trying to hit me, so yeah. Now as for the items that are in these chests, it's mostly just alchables, items such as rune, adamant, stuff like that. There are a few dragon items as well, and of course you have the scrolls that allow you to make the blood bark and swamp bark armor. Now since this update has been out for quite some time, these scrolls really aren't worth too much, but they're still nice to see. You can also obtain the zealot robes, which are good for prayer training, as well as the locks to upgrade the coffin. And as I said earlier, this is a good source of elite clues. The wiki did say it's about 1 every 35 minutes on average, so definitely not a bad way to knock those out. So overall, I'd say this is a very good moneymaker and training method. Of course, the only downside is that you do need some startup cash to buy the actual items themselves, and you do need 95 fire making, but I feel like fire making really doesn't take that long, especially if you do Wintertod. I think it's one of the more faster 99s, so once you get that out of the way, you kind of have something to look forward to here with a nice moneymaker. And before using the last of the purple keys, we did claim the broken coffin from the NPC that is located outside. Now, I did manage to get an elite clue at the very end of this trip, but I'm not going to be doing it here because I am saving it for my master clues. I'm so close to finishing off those 100, so I'll be using it for that. But just keep in mind that the elite clues will add some value to this moneymaker. So here's a look at the first price check. All these items right here are valued at just around 3.5 mil. Now of course, I'm just going to sell them off as quickly as possible, but like with all of my moneymakers, if you do this, make sure that you put them in there for at least market value so that you can maximize your total profits. And there is the first inventory of items sold. We can now move on to the rest of the items. So I decided to sell off all the items except for the gold locks because I do plan on unlocking the gold coffin. But here is the value, it's about 19k, we'll just throw that on top of the total price check. So all in all, 3.6 mil, definitely not a bad moneymaker. And before we end the video, I'm going to go ahead and upgrade the coffin with the gold locks that we managed to get. So we'll go talk to this guy over here. Give him the gold locks. And just like that, we have the gold coffin. So not only does this look, left click is fill, okay. There we go. So not only does this look pretty cool, but it allows us to store remains in here. So trips will last longer if you plan on killing shades here for the remains and then selling them for money, or if you plan to do what we just did and use the remains over here and cremate them and get the keys, it'll allow you to bring more shades in here, or more remains in here I should say. Oh yeah, and I had forgotten about these books. I actually clicked on it to read it and the scrolls themselves fall out. So that's kind of cool. So if we wanted to, we could actually sell these for a little bit more. I guess this brings us closer to our 3 mil mark, or not our 3 mil mark, our 1.3 mil mark, since this one sells for 10. Actually, they both kind of sold for 10, so yeah, interesting. But I'm gonna go ahead and use these up, just since we already sold our stuff, and this will also give us the ability to make the armor if we want to. So now we can go ahead and calculate how much money we made from this one video. So if we take into account the cost of supplies, which was 2,343,594 GP, subtract that from the money we made, which was 3,653,971 GP, we get a grand total profit of 1,310,377 GP. Definitely a great moneymaker. I think anything over a mil is great, especially when you consider the fact that we got some massive XP, 240,000 fire making XP, as well as 57.8 thousand prayer XP. Overall, I'd say this is a great moneymaker and training method if you have the requirements, of course, and it's a lot more exciting than it used to be. The area that you do this in is a lot more appealing than the nasty yellow brown mess we had before, but yeah, looks great. I just want to say thanks for checking out the video, and if you enjoyed it, please consider giving it a thumbs up and maybe even a subscription. And as always, I will catch you guys in the next episode.